Hello, brunch babes, and thank you so much for joining me for this edition of Business Over Brunch. My name is Kima, your podcast host and creator. I'm also the senior publicist for Maddie Clay Branding and Public Relations and agency director for Red Hat Creative Media Group. So if you've been following the podcast, we definitely thank you. You know that most of our topics have been around the beauty industry and behind the scenes in the business of beauty. Well, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I thought it was very important for us to shift the conversation a little bit and talk about that because over the last couple of years, people, myself included, have really been struggling with trying to find ways to gain control of their mental health and taking control of their peace, as they would say. So today I am joined by Miss Paige Gaines, the creator of Coming Up. So Paige, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So today, of course, is Saturday. It's brunch time somewhere. I'm enjoying a little bit of passion tazo tea. What are you having for brunch today?
Just a little bit of water with a twist of lime.
Awesome. So mineral water, stay hydrated. Infusions always have a point to them. So great. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Of course. So I'm Paige Gaines, and I am from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm 31 years old, and I am a mental health coach, which allows me to work with individuals that have mental health challenges because I myself live with a mental health diagnosis. So I just simply work with them on their daily challenges, go through different coping skills and things like that.
Awesome. So thank you so much for being transparent with using your background to help, fuel others forward. So as I said earlier, over the last 2 years, it's been rough. It's been hard. We've had to, transition to how do we deal with different things in life. Some people are transitioning into not working, back to work, working and working from home. Children have been virtual, just so many things going on. So as you're interacting with your clients, what have been some of those main reasons that they say that they're struggling with their mental health right now?
It really does depend on the age. The youngest I work with is 10. If you can imagine a 10-year-old with anxiety, a lot of it has to do with school. A lot of it has to do with our climate and everything that's going on. Sometimes it's at home troubles that they're having. If you want to move up a little bit in age, possibly about high school, it's college admissions, right? Getting through those exams, there's that pressure of what do I want to do for the rest of my life? They're having to answer that question. And we both know there's not an answer to that immediately. There's a process to that. So they have that pressure. And then we have college students that are actually struggling just with being away from home, having a new environment, having the pressures of class and doing everything on their own and building out their adulthood. So those are the main challenges within that age group. But again, some other challenges are finances, relationships, again, our climate, everything that we're living through right now, the racial injustice that we're living through, COVID, one being the biggest one. So there's just so many different elements to what's going on that are having a heavy impact.
Absolutely. I have a 10-year-old, and I definitely agree with what you're saying in regards to not necessarily the anxiety, but just the stress of school. The way we were taught is completely different from the way they're taught. And as a parent trying to help them, it can be stressful. So what are some things that we can do as parents of those age groups to still emphasize the importance of education, but let them know that we're supporting them and kind of take some of that, stress away from them?
Absolutely. I think just having that open conversation about mental health, just simply asking that question of what happened to you that was good today? And even asking that question, what happened to you that was bad today? Just starting that casual conversation, allowing them to know that it is a safe space. And then I even really encourage parents to be transparent with your kids. Say, you know what? I struggled with this, right? I wasn't the best in math, or English was not my strongest subject. Or just simply saying, today wasn't my best day. This is what happened to me. And I think people really can open up and relate to that because you're saying, oh, mom or dad, like you're supposed to be perfect in my eyes. And now that I see that you're not, it makes me a little bit more comfortable and it's easier to talk about things.
Absolutely. And so when you sent your information over, you were in that college age range when you started to experience your mental health or being diagnosed with mental health. What for you was helpful with the initial diagnosis and then moving into where you are now in regards to sharing, using your own story to help others move forward?
What was helpful was actually the beginning process. It was very challenging. I'll never say that it was easy, But getting that diagnosis of bipolar disorder just really allowed me to have answers to questions that I always wanted. I've been living with mental health challenges since I was about 10 years old. So living through that all those years without knowing why I felt the way that I did, and then getting to college and my symptoms being exacerbated, I really just was searching for answers because at that point I dropped out of school. I had a pile of debt. I just had a lot of moving parts going on, and I felt as if I'd lost control. So the initial part was getting that answer of why everything had turned upside down. And then moving forward from there, my family was very helpful. I got great doctors, great psychiatrists, great therapists, just great people around me and a good support system. So that's been carrying me through.
Awesome. And that was going to be one of my next questions. Community. How important is community for someone that is going through mental health challenges with or without a diagnosis?
Community, everybody needs a support system. Everybody needs somebody they can call and laugh with. Everybody needs somebody they can call and cry with. Sometimes you just need somebody to come over and hang out with you because you're lonely. Because we are in COVID, right? If you want to hop on that FaceTime call just to get that interaction. So I really do believe in community. I just got back from a community event, actually, and being able to have that conversation and to normalize it as best as we can is only going to be beneficial for not just us, but for everybody that comes after us.
Absolutely. So before we go further, I do want to ask a question in regards to the difference. Is there a difference in therapy and counseling? And if there is, what is that? What is that difference so people know exactly what they need and who they should be looking for?
So it goes hand in hand, to be very truthful. The biggest difference I'd like to point out would be a difference between a therapist, a counselor, and a psychiatrist. So sometimes people get those mixed up. A psychiatrist is the one that is going to help you with your medication, whereas counseling and therapy is going to be more evidence-based. So, for example, they have cognitive behavioral therapy, which is also known as CBT. They have dialectical behavior therapy, which is also called DBT. So there's so many different skill sets that go within counseling and therapy, but it really just ranges upon what their credentials are, and those are long listed. But no, there is no main difference.
Okay, awesome. So if I said I'm going to start going to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, I could start my journey, for lack of a better term, with a counselor. And then if they determine that, no, you do need a different diagnosis, then they can refer me to a psychiatrist who can help me with the medicine. Okay, that's good to
Absolutely.
know because I think sometimes people don't know where to start or who to look for. I was having a conversation with one of my family members just the other day, and she is so dead set against going to counseling and therapy. Why do you still think that people have an aversion to therapy, especially in the Black community? Why are we so gung-ho against not going to someone to get us help when we know we need it?
I'm speaking from a personal experience. I was always told what happens in our house stays in our house, right? That's just something that we were taught since birth, and something that we've carried along. So I think it's just that space of being vulnerable with a stranger can be a little bit uncomfortable. And then again, just sharing your personal business, we're just not open to doing so. And then sometimes we just kind of write off therapy to be for somebody that is lack of better words, it's crazy, so to say. We don't like using that term, but we just say, oh, no, that's for crazy people. I don't need that. In reality, we all need therapy. We all need somebody to help us process our emotions, process different challenges that we're having. It's beneficial in your relationships. It's beneficial financially. You just have a better mind frame and a better quality of life.
Absolutely. I definitely agree. And that's one thing that I always try to impress upon her because I've gone through counseling before and I'm actually, going to look to get back in because of so much that has happened. Life happens. And sometimes we don't have the necessary tools to help us say, okay, I can get through this. Or I was telling her that, things that we thought we let go of, we could be triggered later on in life. And that reaction might be worse than what we anticipated to be. And someone, with that background can help you say, okay, this is how you get through that. So I agree that everybody needs one. And that crazy tag is not true. It's just like someone who doesn't know your situation, looking from the outside, looking in, giving you unbiased, thought. So Definitely. So tell us a little bit about Sane Jane. How did you come up with that name, and how did your business come about?
Good. A good friend of mine, she's actually a fashion designer, has beautiful clothing. Um, we've been friends since gosh, like 13, 14. And once I got sick in my 20s, I remember she always used to say, well, can't you just throw yourself into work? Doesn't that work for you? And I'm like, I wish, like I wish I could just busy myself, but I'm really not functioning that well. And then she told me, well, maybe you should start like a Dear Diary thing. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. I like that idea. And so once I heard Dear Diary, I heard To My Dearest, and then I heard Sane Jane, like XOXO Sane Jane, this is
Mhm.
for me. And I ran with it. I had a notebook and I had a pen, and I just started brainstorming and really putting in the work to make it come to life. So in about 2016 is when I went ahead and made it official. And I've been moving on ever since.
Awesome. So, what are some services that people can receive if they come through your agency?
Sure. So we do mental health coaching, which again, I use my own lived experience to help an individual one on one with mental health challenges, whether it be I'm struggling with anxiety when I get up in the morning. We're strictly based on coping skills and kind of just talking about those triggers and things like that. And then from there, I also do speaking engagements in addition to workshops.
Awesome. So, if someone were to come to you, ideally, because everybody wants to know how long it's going to take to fix me. I know that's always a question that I've heard from people before. Um, what is that process like when they come and say, "Okay, Paige, I'm ready for help. Can you help me? How long should I anticipate this?" I know it's going to be case by case, but in theory, like how long should someone be able to commit to a program to actually help them with a routine?
I would say about 3 months, about 3 months, every other week, like twice a month, and just being consistent. Because the thing is, you have to do the work outside of session as
Exactly.
well, which is way more important that you're doing it continuously, because that's how you build those healthy habits. The same way we have to work out continuously and make consistent and see the results of that. I think that's what, like a month, 2 months, where you may start seeing some results. Same thing. But I personally started seeing results mentally after I started meditating and implementing some of my personal coping skills. Basically, immediately within the first week, I was able to find some relief within my anxiety, some relief within my depression, and just being able to journal and just use all these different skills that are out there definitely helped. But I would say about 3 months.
Okay, so not a long commitment. Of course, there are programs out to help individuals cover costs of therapy and counseling services if they need it, EAP through your employer, insurance, different things like that. So we really don't have too many excuses for why we shouldn't enlist a counselor if we need them. But for someone who is struggling and they don't know what's going on, why am I feeling this way? What are some signs or some telltale signs you think people should really be on the lookout for to let them know that, hey, your mental health right now needs some attention?
I would say a major sign is isolation. Another major sign would be not sleeping or sleeping too much, loss of an appetite or gaining of an appetite. So anything that's going on within our regular daily schedule. So when things become like anxiety, for example, is not a bad thing. It's a bad thing when it becomes crippling and we're not able
Mm-hmm.
to function. So being sad, it's not a bad thing, but having depression is when it's impacting our everyday life, is when it really does become a challenge. So definitely the sleeping, definitely the food, and definitely oh gosh, what was my third one? Sleeping, food, and isolation. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So, and people, of course, will say it's COVID. I'm isolating anyway, but no, there's a different type of
Yes.
isolation than it is for quarantining. So, yeah, definitely want to make sure that you look out for those things and don't be afraid to ask for help. And I know that a lot of counselors now offer the telehealth option. Is that something that people can look for if they come through St. Jane?
Yes, absolutely. Everything actually now is telehealth. I myself receive services via telehealth. I think it's very convenient.
Mm-hmm.
People are able to do it from the comfort of their home. They're not having to get up and go to a doctor's office that may be a little uncomfortable and come into contact with other people. You just never know what people are really going through. So being able to do it from their comfort space is really important. So we definitely encourage telehealth.
Awesome. So outside of maybe telehealth and understanding, like maybe the type of client you work with, what are some other things that people can look for when they decide, okay, I am going to reach out to somebody? How can they find that person that they feel is their match to help them get through?
So I always like to say, possibly make a list of what you're looking for, right? What are your daily challenges? What's going on? So if you're looking to work with trauma, I really encourage you to work with a trauma therapist. If you're looking to just work through work stress or anxiety stress or things like that, just find somebody that's specialized within your needs. Because sometimes we get to service and we're like, they didn't do what I needed them to
Mm-hmm.
do, when sometimes we have to step back and do a little bit of research ourselves and to say, okay, this is what I'm looking for, these are my needs, and being able to advocate for ourselves once we get in that room. I always like to tell people they work for you. Like, you're not there working for them. You're supposed to tell them what your needs are and what's going on. So just always remember to advocate for yourself.
Awesome. So, one more question in regards to how we can do better for ourselves. So, there's the whole thing now, protecting my peace at all costs. So, we've already talked about some of the things that we should be on the lookout for to say, okay, we might be struggling here. What can we do to then, while we're deciding on if we're going to go through counseling or even if we are going through like setting boundaries, what are some things that we can do to help us kind of manage it, even with or without any additional assistance?
So personally, my top two and now three coping skills in self care are meditation. I use an app called Headspace, and it starts off with like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, four, and you can build up from there. But it just teaches you how to do breath work. It teaches you how to deep breathe and kind of stay in that present moment and practice gratitude. And then another favorite of mine is journaling. You can go to any therapist or counselor, and they're going to say, this is free therapy, this is free service, it's for you to journal. And that's because you're sitting there and you're processing what's going on, what you're feeling, and you're getting it out onto paper.
Mhm.
And then a recent one of mine that I'm starting is exercising, which has helped greatly. It's definitely helped my mood and things like that. So we have to address all aspects, but those are my top three.
Definitely. I love, I've heard of Headspace. Definitely want to check it out. And journaling, you're right. Because it gets it out of your system. Like you get ready
Exactly.
to release those thoughts onto paper. And even though you're not talking to someone, you still have gotten it out of your mind. And you can, however set up you're going to do it, it's no longer living inside of you to continue to tear you up
Exactly.
with that. So I definitely recommend journaling and exercising. It's a battle between me and exercise.
I'm just a month and a half in, and I just tell myself every week, just one more week, one more. If you can get through this week, then you can make it to next week. But it has definitely been something that I've struggled with my entire life.
Mhm.
So I am focused and tuned in, and we're going to hold on to it as best as we can.
Yes, I'm definitely gonna put my best foot forward. I've already said that when I drop my son off, I'm gonna start walking our neighborhood because I noticed around the time that other people walk. So I think I'll feel more comfortable if I see other people versus just me walking outside by myself. So that's something that I said I'm gonna make up in my mind. So on Monday when I take him to school, I'm gonna take my first walk.
Yeah,
So,
and it's beautiful. Being able to get out, get some fresh air, kind of enjoy that, the wind, looking around, seeing what's going on, the leaves, whatever the case may be. Staying in that present moment is definitely beneficial.
yes, indeed. And work from home. So we've talked about those three coping mechanisms. I know sometimes people working from home kind of feel like I'm here, I have nowhere to go. It's becoming, too overwhelming. Like, how can sometimes I feel like if I go outside just to the mailbox, just to soak in some sun, and I come back inside, I feel a little bit more rejuvenated. So, for people who are, working from home, don't have any other outside obligations, and are starting to feel some of that, um, pressure coming down, like what are some things they can do to break that up as well?
I definitely would encourage an outside walk, honestly, even if it is for about 5 to 10 minutes. Stretching your legs, changing your environment, it's always going to be beneficial. If you work from home like myself, I have to change something in my house at least once a week. Whether that be rearranging my couch. My boyfriend just gets on me. He's like, our house looks different every time I come home. I'm like, it's good for me. But really, though, adding a pop of color to your wall, changing around a picture, adding in a plant, changing your visual will definitely help as well, especially working from home because we see the same thing every day. We see our computer, we see our keyboard, we see our Zoom calls, and it can be a little repetitive and a little discouraging. But try adding in a plant, try adding in a picture, whatever it may be, just to change your visual environment a little bit.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely zoomed out. So, and I think we all are at this point. Zoom, Teams, Skype,
Yes.
whatever. It's too much. I'm over it. So, thank you, Paige, so much for sharing with us. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you feel would be beneficial for our audience as they go through not just the month of May, but every day after to help them with their mental health journeys?
I would say give yourself some grace. Every day isn't going to be a great day. Try not to be so hard on yourself. And I'm speaking to myself as well.
Mhm.
Give yourself some grace. We show a lot of people empathy. We give a lot of other people love, but sometimes we don't return it to ourselves. So give yourself some grace, show yourself some empathy, and just be kind.
Awesome. So, Paige, thank you again. So, we do want to remind everyone that you can visit her website at 911 Sane Jane. How else can we connect with you?
I am on all social media platforms at 911 Sane Jane. So that is Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Yes.
Awesome. So, if you need someone to help you through your day, definitely do not feel discouraged. Definitely do not feel embarrassed. Definitely look at it as someone helping you with some different coping mechanisms that you can't get with talking to your mom, your sister, your friend, family member. There's nothing wrong with going to counseling. No one is going to judge you. And the good thing is that, like she said, most things now are telehealth. So, you can be in the comfort of your own home, the privacy of your own office. You don't have to leave. You don't have to explain to anyone where you're going. You can just log in and talk to somebody.
Yes.
So great. So thank you again, Paige. Thank you all again for joining us for another edition of Business Over Brunch. Want to remind you that we brunch every first and third Saturday right here at 11 a.m. I'm your host, Kima Boyer, and we were joined today by Paige Gaines of Sane Jane. Until the next time, be blessed and enjoy whatever is on your brunch menu.